Okay, so we have a new episode of Legends and Leaders, and today it's great to have Alex here. Alex, you've been building a really interesting and innovative company that takes advantage of AI in the parking area, making the process much more automated, much more seamless than what you traditionally have. It's more you're reducing hassle, you're improving the way that the cost structure is optimized, and you have a ton of experience in the parking space. You built a company that had a database that was like the most extensive out in the industry. Left there and now you're taking your talents to AI here. I'm definitely excited to have you here and to get into your story.
Well, happy to be here. Great to see you, Ben, and happy to jump into my background and the story and uh, everything from how I first got into the parking industry to how we started building one of the fast growing AI companies in the United States. So excited to dig in.
Same. So, how did your passion for technology, entrepreneurship, like Alex, how did this like passion in general of hey, this is what I'm gonna do with my life, like begin?
I think candidly, I think it started as a child. I was always fascinated by business. My father's an artist. My mother is a psychologist, and they are very unfocused on financials and business. And I think I immediately gravitated towards it at a young age. So, right out of, I was always tinkering and starting businesses as a child. But right after graduate school, as I was completing my master's, I founded my first kind of real formal startup. And we invented a technology called real time parking that told consumers all over the world where parking is available in real time, and built that technology into most of the largest navigation companies globally, from Waze to Google to TomTom, and licensed that to most of the largest automotive companies, from Porsche to Ford to BMW. Built that company from 2009 to 2015, exited that company to Microsoft spinout called Inrix. Did 2 years at Inrix, and then founded this company at the beginning of 2018, end of 2017.
Mhm. So, how did you actually build like the Parkme technology? What went into that?
It was a slog. It was very much a traditional startup. So we ended up raising seed financing, then ended up raising probably a little over $10 million over the lifetime of that company, starting in 2008. And it was all about how you build relationships with the largest parking operators in the United States, state officials, state governments, municipal governments, and amalgamating a database of really disparate, idiosyncratic, orthogonal data. And how could you amalgamate it across the globe? And how could you create veracity? And then how could you then license that data into most of the largest navigation companies? So if you look at whether it's a Google Maps product or a Waze product, and you see those blue parking piece, we invented that technology and then licensed that technology to those organizations.
And how did you start to get them to integrate your technology? Like, what did it take to get the first one to convince them to actually have this?
It was a different time. I think at that point, our first licensing deal, I don't know if you recall companies like TomTom, they had those,
Mhm.
handheld personal navigation devices. They called them PNDs. And for them at the time, it was really about maximizing the number of POIs, or points of information, or points of interest on a map. And they didn't have parking data. So we went actually out and physically mapped the data. We were young, very scrappy entrepreneurs, and it was all about amalgamating that physical data. And then we started to build processes, and we started to build relationships with automotive companies where they would actually turn on the ultrasonic sensors. So those are like, the beeping noises when you back up in a car.
Yeah.
Um, we struck relationships with a number of the largest automotive companies where if a car was driving under 35 miles an hour, the ultrasonic sensors would turn on. And then we could build algorithms that would tell us where on-street parking was available all over the world.
Really?
So it got really robust as we scaled that technology.
That's an interesting idea too.
Yeah, it was a fun, it was a great outcome and a fun journey.
Hmm. So, how did the acquisition there for Parkme happen, and why was it the right time for you to do something different?
I think that for me, the automotive space is inherently slow,
Mhm.
and I thought data was just one piece of the puzzle. we were, myself and my co-founders at Metropolis were really aware of a multitude of what I would qualify as secular trends in artificial intelligence, secular trends in autonomous vehicles. And we thought that there was a really interesting intersection of how we could look at those secular trends and build a next generation payments product. So we founded Metropolis at the end of 17 to do exactly that. Think about what does payment look like in the next 10 to 20 years. And for us, it wasn't taking out your wallet. It wasn't taking out your credit card. It wasn't double tapping with a phone. It was seamless. Checkout free commerce, leveraging artificial intelligence and computer vision. So we built a product that doesn't require all of those pain points, doesn't require all that friction, can really get you back to what matters in life. And that's not wasting time in lines, sitting in traffic. It's experiences with friends and families. And our lives are riddled with these little pain points, often tied to getting somewhere or paying for a product. And unlike so many other technology companies where you want to maximize the amount of time someone spends engaging in your product, we actually wanted to minimize it. We wanted you to be able to sign up one time, one 40-second sign up process, and then not engage with us. When you engage in a facility that we're empowering or a retail establishment that we're empowering, you get a text message when you arrive and you're charged when you leave. None of those traditional pain points.
Huh. Yeah, it's very seamless, and it's. But then, how do you kind of establish like a brand name? Like, is that even something you've thought about and needed?
At this point, we have over 4,000 locations across the United States. We have over, 8 million members that have registered on platform. And yeah, it's been interesting to look at markets like parking, where the market unto itself is disparate and it's riddled with a lot of bad experiences. How do you create a remarkable experience within parking? And it's a really challenging question. And for us, that was the core question was, can you decommoditize the payment experience? Can you say, what, I'm actually going to go to this quick serve establishment. I'm actually going to choose this parking location because it has this payment technology. And I know I can depend on that type of seamless experience.
Mhm. Well, I was going to ask before, but why do you love parking so much? Like, what's really gravitated you towards parking?
You know, I'm fascinated by problems that we encounter on a day-to-day basis, things that we've grown complicit or complacent with. People always say it's not going to get any better. I would say that people have a visceral reaction to parking. It's almost as if, to a lot of people, parking is a bad word. It's everywhere. It's 15% of the surface area of our cities. In some global cities, it's 30% of the surface area. It represents 30% of urban congestion is caused by people circling the block looking for parking. Just a pain point that we face day in and day out in so many moments of our lives, and just realize that it was the first touch point. If we could tackle this problem, it would allow us to scale our technology into so many other verticals, so many other problems tied to payment and seamless experiences that are riddled with little annoyances that just shouldn't have them.
Mhm. That makes sense. I mean, I didn't realize how much of your cities are taken up by parking. It's a lot. That's a lot.
Very true.
Did you start out like Metropolis as an AI company? Was that the focus? Like, did you wind up pivoting more towards AI, as the company's focus later on? How do you view the AI integration as a piece of the company?
Yeah. So when we founded the company, Ben, we were really thinking about what was happening in artificial intelligence, namely computer vision, and we were thinking about what was happening with autonomous vehicles. And we were thinking about how would autonomous vehicles, whether they were going to come to fruition in 1 year or a decade, how are they going to interact with physical infrastructure? Were they going to pull up to a parking facility because they needed to be cleaned, stored, charged, and deployed? Or are they going to wipe their windshield wiper blades, flash their lights, and honk their horn and wait for someone to walk out to let them in? Autonomous vehicles are all about minimizing lost legs, getting cars on their job and then off the road as quickly as possible. There's this whole idea that autonomous vehicles are just going to circle the block endlessly. Well, they're not. They're going to get off the road and then back on the road for their next journey, next event, or next job. And for us, it was about creating that connectivity layer. How can we leverage computer vision technology to create that connectivity, connecting new world mobility with old world infrastructure? And the original thesis was simple. It was, how do you connect vehicles with infrastructure? And we realized that the first touch point there, the first experience, should be a computer vision based experience. And there's been computer vision based products, optical character recognition, license plate recognition, that have existed for decades in the space. It just doesn't have the veracity or accuracy without artificial intelligence to create a solution that in fact is remarkable for the consumer. This kind of touchless, touch-free, checkout-free commerce is not possible without current advances in artificial intelligence.
Mhm. And right when you started the company around that point, like was that like because the industry was also at a trajectory that these technologies were more possible and possible to implement at scale? Was that like the right timing for you?
The timing was, we were very lucky. We were very lucky as we thought about the evolution of computer vision technology and we thought about trends in synthetic algorithms and we thought about the viability of building an artificial intelligence product. We were in the right place at the right time.
Mhm. And now today, I mean, Metropolis is like the example of real world AI. I mean, there's very few companies that are as advanced with real world practical AI as you guys are. So that's definitely you've set out to do that. And now you're at that point. That's impressive.
Yeah, Ben, that's exactly how we think about it. There are so many companies that are leveraging AI and it's in the palm of your hand. It's the idea of how you interact with an app from an artificial intelligence standpoint. For us, it was, how do you actually leverage what we do on a day-to-day basis in our lives? And how do we leverage advances in artificial intelligence to affect the real world, to affect your day-to-day life?
Hmm. It's a great approach. How does
Thank
the
you.
technology out? How does the Alex like the technology work? Like what is really under the hood here?
So we leverage computer vision technology to create a fingerprint of your vehicle. And so when you pull into a Metropolis enabled facility or experience, our technology identifies the vehicle, creates a fingerprint of your vehicle, sends you a text message when it identifies your vehicle, and when you leave, it charges you for your services or the time you've been there.
So what does that mean identifying the vehicle? Like what kind of characteristics is it looking for?
Yeah, it's a great question. So what I would tell you is, if you think about this juxtaposition of these neural networks and artificial intelligence platforms versus a traditional kind of heuristics rules-based model, where you'd go in and you'd say, what we're really going to identify is a dent on a vehicle or the color of a vehicle. This isn't a heuristics-based model. It's actually an artificial intelligence-based model. So it's the model itself that determines the match based on its own analysis of the image. So it's not as simple as saying it's this or that, because it's not heuristics based, it's not rules based.
Wow, so that's very different.
Very different.
Hmm. And how do you see this technology evolving? Now we're seeing a lot of breakthroughs with OpenAI with the recent model they released. Like, what do you think are some improvements that could be done to the model you have?
So for us, it's all about extending into additional verticals and extending this remarkable payments experience to everywhere you want to be. So whether that's a gas station, whether that's quick serve retail, whether that's a car wash, this idea of anywhere you are facilitating this seamless experience where you don't have to take out your wallet. You don't have to take out your phone. You just engage in your services and you don't have to pay. You just leave. This idea of seamless checkout free commerce we find to be truly remarkable and unique.
So, Alex, do you see this going into stores?
So the goal is that our technology travels wherever you are to
Mhm.
truly make, as we say internally, the journey remarkable.
And identifying a person it's the same model to be able to do that as a car. It's not that different.
It's a good question. We don't do anything on the biometric front. We stay all about identifying inanimate objects. So think about that in the context of a car, and that's really our focus.
So now you have 4,000, plus locations. What did it take to scale from, hey, this is what we're doing to 4,000 locations?
It was not easy. Um, took a lot of time, grit, and tenacity, and truly, once again, speaking to being lucky, a truly amazing team that we've built over a number of years. But we started as a traditional technology company, and we
Mhm.
grew organically, and we quickly realized that we had rapid product market fit and unit economic fit. What we didn't have was a rapid go to market. And the reason we didn't have a rapid go to market is we were dealing with real estate owners. We were dealing with infrastructure. We were dealing with picks and shovels. And that's an industry that moves very slowly. And in order to kind of jump that hurdle, in order to further grow our platform, what we actually did is we took a non traditional path. We grew inorganically. So we actually started to acquire what I'd qualify as traditional old world parking operators. And we acquired those businesses and then have deployed our technology across those platforms. So as of October of last year, we announced what I would say is a transformative take private, something that's really never been done before. This idea of a growth buyout, this idea that a minnow could swallow a whale, this idea that a technology company could buy a traditional kind of small cap publicly traded company. So we bought a company called SP Plus, the largest publicly traded at the time parking operator in the United States, and we raised $1.8 billion and acquired them. We announced in October of last year and closed about 120 days ago.
Congrats. How did
Thank
that
you.
how did that whole deal come together? Because it didn't seem to be the easiest of deals.
No, it was what we found, and what was unique is that as we did our last acquisition, which was the acquisition of another parking operator out of Nashville called Premier Parking, is we found that we could buy that organization, and through the deployment of technology, we could accomplish two things. One, we could create an amenitized remarkable experience for consumers, and we could create a grossly differentiated experience for asset owners in how they reconcile and review and understand the underlying operations of their parking facilities, which was very compelling. And the net result was a much more profitable mousetrap in terms of a traditional parking operation. And therefore, we were able to scale not only at an inorganic gate through this acquisition, but also an organic gate, and became technically one of the fastest growing operators in the United States and fast growing payments companies in the United States. So then when we started to look at larger targets, every one of our investors, and we've been very lucky, have brought together some of the preeminent tech investors globally. And everyone kind of sat around the table and said, let's do more of that. So we went after the 800-pound gorilla in the space, which was a company called SP Plus.
Mhm. So do you think your strategy now is going to be, we need to get our technology into more parking spaces. Let's go and just acquire other parking operators. It's the fastest and maybe cheapest way to do that.
Yeah, it's a good question, Ben. So what I'll tell you is the my investor base and the founding team and the executive team are very acquisitive, meaning we're very interested in acquisitions, but not just on the parking side. We're also very acquisitive on the artificial intelligence side, looking at other computer vision platforms, looking at other artificial intelligence platforms in the payment space or the mobility space that can drive accretive value. So, will we grow organically? Yeah, at a massive gate. We're growing faster than any other company in this space in terms of number of locations, just on an organic basis. And we'll absolutely continue to grow on an inorganic basis as well.
So Alex, I definitely understand the, technology implementation, the convenience that can come from that for any parking operator and also the person, parking their car. What about like from a financial side? How much of a difference does Metropolis really make to the person, to the operator of the parking, area and then also to the consumer?
Yeah, it's a what I would argue is a very significant difference to both the consumer from an amenitized and remarkable experience perspective, and then a very unique experience for the asset owner. So asset owners traditionally, if you go to, the class A office building owner and you ask them their occupancy level, you ask them the revenue capture rates, and they know everything on the top of their head. They can tell you the occupancy of a building. Now you ask that same owner about the occupancy of their parking facility, the revenue
Yeah.
capture rate. They know nothing. And often on those buildings, you can actually generate the same amount of revenue on a per square foot basis for your parking as you can your underlying real estate, your class A
Really?
office building. And it's just this forgotten asset class. And It's forgotten because there hasn't been an alternative. There hasn't been a remarkable experience that can capture that type of underlying information. And once again, to your earlier comment, Ben, this idea of leveraging artificial intelligence and computer vision allows us to understand what's happening in a facility with remarkable validity in real time.
Mhm. In some ways, you're like an Uber for parking lots.
I think that I think that is a fair assessment. I would just say we're an Uber in the context, or we're a payments company that can facilitate these seamless experiences in any mobility or mobility adjacent experience.
Because there's a ton of empty parking garages sometimes in very prime areas that are just not set up correctly for for just the traditional parking that people need, but only more for private parking.
100%. There's this kind of, I would say, urban legend that parking is always full. It's
Yeah.
almost never full. People just don't know where to find it.
Yeah, it's very difficult at times.
It's very true.
So you mentioned earlier, Alex, on the investors you have. You got some incredibly prestigious investors. What are some of the ways that they've been really helpful in terms of structuring, the acquisition? I know you touched on it a bit before, but also like with the go forward plan. Like how have they been really impactful in that?
Yeah, you've been really lucky, and this business was not easy to raise money for initially.
Really?
It's an idiosyncratic kind of unique business. And this idea of leveraging, you know, true artificial intelligence technology and at the same time pursuing this M&A strategy is very non-traditional. And I think from a capital markets perspective, there's a bit of a collision, if you will. And we've been lucky. We've raised from some of the most sophisticated, preeminent global investors. Our last round was largely led by Eldridge, which is founded by Todd Bowley and Tony Manila, and we had very significant participation from BDT MSD. Very significant participation from Temasek, as well as Vista, and we've had a litany of other tier one investors participate over the years, from Slow to Silver Lake to Dragoneer, and it's been a wonderful experience working with tier one investors like those organizations, whereby they not only provide capital, which is often a commodity. What they really provide is a Rolodex, it's a relationship, it's strategic insight. As we look at players like 3L, who was one of our lead investors in our Series A, our Series B, and our Series C. If we look at organizations like that, they've been with us all along the way, sitting on our board, serving as our partner. And then as you bring kind of next generation juggernauts to bear, like organizations like Eldridge, it just brings a true strategic value and gasoline to the underlying value proposition.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, they have so much experience, these funds you mentioned, between a lot of different deals. I mean, it really can accelerate you, just the knowledge they have.
100%. The knowledge, the experience, and then the relationships are truly, truly profound.
Mhm. Alex, if you had to like state a couple goals that are maybe your short-term goals as well as your long-term goals for Metropolis now, like what would you say those would be?
For us, it's relatively straightforward, Ben. It's to be an artificial intelligence company for the real world and to create these remarkable checkout free commerce experiences everywhere you go.
Mhm. Yeah, that is pretty simple.
Yeah, we think it's elegant in its simplicity. We like the idea that we can create that type of strategic and role clarity internally, and we can understand exactly how to get from where we are today to where we want to go.
Mhm. And where do you see this AI space going, like in general right now?
You mean our company or AI in general?
AI in general.
Listen, I think it's a AI and what I would qualify as this technological revolution, in my opinion, is going to be different than any technological revolution we've ever seen before. If you look at historical industrial or technological revolutions, you've seen a repatriation of what I would qualify as the unskilled labor class. And what we're seeing now is a repatriation of the skilled labor class.
Mhm.
And that's really different. It's really confusing. And I think that it's going to have a very net impact, positive contribution to our economy and our society. at the same time, I think it's going to be significantly disruptive. It's going to be significantly disruptive if you're putting lawyers and accountants and designers out of business because you can leverage artificial intelligence. And I think that a lot of people aren't talking about that. I think a lot of people are, we spent a lot of time talking about autonomous vehicles and what that was going to do for bus drivers.
Mhm.
And I think that was a concern. And so far, it has not yielded to be the case. But I think now we're already seeing a lot of startups change their marketing profile, change their design profiles,
Yeah.
change the expense profiles of their entire P&L. And that's really disruptive. And it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out because it affects a lot of people's lives.
I mean, some people are, still say we'll have the legal Zoom and we'll have the lawyers, but it is getting more specialized as we go. And every new model that comes out, that's how, it's becoming like human like almost.
I completely agree. And what I will tell you is, I don't know where it's going, but it's going to change a lot of people's lives. And we're going to have to repatriate a lot of our workforce
hmm
and
And Alex,
retrain a lot of our workforce.
just the last question that I have, at this point now, like you've done a ton in your career with multiple different parking companies in the tech space, leading AI. Where would you say like the next phase of your, you personally, like where do you see yourself going
Where do I see myself going professionally?
professionally, personally? Yeah, like what's kind of next for you?
Listen, I love leading organizations. It's what drives me, and it's not just the products. It's more than anything. It's the people, and that's what keeps me up at night, and that's what gets me up in the morning. We employ tens of thousands of people at Metropolis now, and that's only growing. And we think there's a profound opportunity to create a remarkable place for people to work and to drive value to themselves and to millions of consumers.
Well, I'm excited to see what you'll do next. I think what you've already done is super impressive, and it's something that's provided a way better experience for parking and really what it should be, and what it should be everywhere. So I'm excited to see you scale Metropolis and wish you much success.
Thank you, Ben. Well, likewise, thank you for taking the time to to interview me and spend time on this podcast. I really enjoyed it.